Hello my dear anime friends. In this video I will be giving you a recap of the movie called Dororo. Sit back, enjoy and relax. Lord Dago recalls the moment he formed a bargain with the 12 demons in the Hall of Hell as he waits for his wife Nua to give birth. When his first son Hyakimaru was born, the demons collect their payment for his willingness to walk the road of evil in exchange for power. The kid is born lacking limbs, facial features, and skin. The infant is abandoned in the river to fend for itself. 16 years later, he's a young man traveling alone, sporting Dr. Jukai's prosthetics. While on the quest for a sludge-like monster, he comes upon Dororo, a teenage petty thief who is being beaten by 3 guys whom Dororo has conned out of their stuff. The monster strikes and devours the guys, but the young man defeats it with swords hidden within his prosthetic arms. Following the demon's death, the man's missing skin returns, and lightning splits a demon statue in the Hall of Hell. Meanwhile, Dago's second son, Takomaru, arrives home after hunting, but his mother still misses her first son. Dororo follows the young guy who rescued him. He appears to be unable to see, hear, or speak, but he possesses exceptional sword skills, superhuman strength, and the capacity to recognize friendly or hostile creatures based on the color of their souls. Dororo leads the young man to a village where a beautiful woman called Bandai lives and offers to battle a local demon. While there, they encounter Biba Hoshi, a blind monk who can detect people's spirits. They learn that Bandai is a monster who has been devouring travelers, and after a long and furious battle, the young guy slays the demon. The monster reappears, ringing its bell, and a villager tells that it is the ghost of the first being murdered by the demon. Dororo and the monk learn that the young man's name is Hyakimaru. Lightning strikes the Bandai statue in the Hall of Hell. Hyakimaru regains control of his central nervous system, allowing him to experience pain again. Meanwhile, Dago has been informed that the Sakai clan looks to be preparing for war. A doctor named Jukai-sensei discovered Lord Dago's abandoned and disfigured baby on a riverside many years ago. He brought the boy home and created customized prostheses for him to move around and seem normal. 6 years later, the doctor named him Hyakimaru. The kid's right leg was mysteriously restored to him after he fought a monster. Although the youngster attracted monsters, Jukai recognized that his bodily parts had most likely been stolen by demons. Before the young man set out on his own, the doctor put swords into Hyakimaru's prosthetic arms. Dororo is conversing with a female, while Hyakimaru stands outside for the first time, feeling the rain. He instantly detects a demon sword and runs. He comes across a guy brandishing a sword and defeats him only by trapping the sword in his prosthetic leg. Dororo tries to fetch the leg, but when he touches the sword, it is drawn back to its owner. The girl finds her brother Danasuke and brings him home, but he is only concerned with reclaiming the sword. Meanwhile, Hyakimaru disarms Dororo, but Danasuke seizes the sword once again and assaults Hyakimaru. Hyakimaru kills him and breaks the sword, causing his ears to return to him. He meets Mio the next morning in Sakai territory, but he falls from his wounds. The visitors stay at an abandoned temple with Mio and a group of orphaned youngsters. Mio works as a prostitute for the Sakai military at night. Meanwhile, the monk locates a better location for them, but it is occupied by a demon. Despite the fact that his wounds are still mending, Hyakimaru rushes to battle it. The monk is concerned because his white aura is beginning to reveal glimpses of demon red. They come upon an antlion larvae-like monster that bites off the bottom part of Hyakimaru's genuine leg, leaving him howling in pain. The monk and Hyakimaru return to Mio's camp. His leg is only half gone, but his voice has returned. With the assistance of Mio, he gradually adjusts to using his hearing and voice. They get attracted to one another, and the red in his soul subsides. He returns to destroy the monster despite being just partly restored. He kills the demon and his leg heals, but when he and Dororo return to the shrine, they find Mio fatally wounded and Dago troops slaughtering the orphans because they suspect Mio is a Sakai agent. Hyakimaru, furious by the attack on Mio, goes insane, slaying all the Dago troops until Dororo intervenes, terrified that Hyakimaru would become a demon himself. They both continue their journey after burying the dead. A monster comes in a black cloud above a village, and the residents rush to prepare a lady as a sacrifice bride to satisfy it. Saru, a wild youngster, tries to stop the sacrifice while Hyakimaru and Dororo watch the bridal march proceed up the mountain. Dororo and Hyakimaru decided to eliminate the monster after hearing the boy's account. A black cloud surrounds them, and the demon emerges as a huge centipede, which Hyakimaru cannot distinguish from the cloud since they both seem red to his eyesight, and it consumes the lady. Dororo and Saru hatch a scheme to set the monster on fire using the sulfurous vapors generated by the mountain, but it has little impact. Dororo then jumps on the demon's head, allowing Hyakimaru to detect and strike the centipede via sound. The dark cloud fades as it is destroyed, and Hyakimaru and the lady who is still alive after being devoured whole fall into water. Saru is relieved to have found his sister and decides to join her in the village. Hyakimaru regains his sense of smell and acknowledges Dororo by name for the first time. Dororo becomes unwell with a fever, and Hyakimaru transports him to a shrine for treatment. Dororo subsequently recovers, but the priestess confesses to Hyakimaru that she is a girl. Dororo was found out to be a young girl when she removed her clothing to wash them. Meanwhile, Daigo learns from a survivor of the raid on Mio's camp that Hyakkimaru may still be alive. While the drought in the Daigo regions deepens and the Asakura clan gathers on the border, a crab-like monster devours a man after wrecking his boat. When he returns to the temple, he discovers more demon statues shattered, and the demons warn him that Hyakkimaru is still alive and slowly reassembling the stolen parts of his body. Daigo's son, Takomaru, realizes his father is looking for the boy, so he leaves. Later, Tahomaru and his two bodyguards, Mutsu and Hyogo, come across a town where people talk about a monster in the lake that eats fishermen. He takes a group of people in their boats onto the lake and battles and wounds the monster, but it is too powerful and they must retreat. The villagers are then instructed to build a trap by Tahomaru, hoping to entice the monster into a small canal where the water may be drained. The strategy works, and Tahomaru, Mutsu, and Hyogo team together to assault it. However, the monster fights back and nearly devours Hyogo, but Hyakkimaru comes at the last second and slays it. Tahomaru is perplexed as to who this stranger is. As the two travelers arrive at the Daigo city, he learns Hyakkimaru's name. There, they attend a drama showing Daigo as a renowned demon slayer shielded by the goddess of mercy. While Hyakkimaru and Dororo examine the ruins of Fort Banman, the monk seeks the truth at the Hall of Hell. It was constructed by Daigo and is said to be cursed by a demon. They discover the remains of a timber wall where the Asakura pin their enemies' bodies with arrows. They come upon a little kid named Sukuroku who wants to cross to the Asakura side and rejoin his family. Meanwhile, Tahomaru's bodyguards report the event with Hyakkimaru to Daigo, who discovers his son is alive and resolves to murder him in order to keep his realm prosperous. Despite his wife's pleadings, Tahomaru overhears their conversation and subsequently encounters a deranged lady who was there at Hyakkimaru's birth. She tells him how the monsters devoured everything but the kid. When darkness falls in Banman, a nine-tailed fox demon appears. When it strikes Hyakkimaru, Sukuroku exploits the distraction to go behind the wall, with Dororo hot on his tail. They are, however, taken by Asakura sentries. The demon is ultimately scared away by arrows from a squadron headed by Daigo, who then approaches Hyakkimaru. When he sees demonic red in Daigo's soul, Hyakkimaru does not recognize his father and is perplexed. Daigo orders his archers to fire on Hyakkimaru, who runs. Meanwhile, Dororo and Sukuroku are imprisoned in Asakura with other captives, but Dororo escapes. Tahomaru confronts his mother about his brother's fate at the Daigo compound, but his father reveals the bargain he struck with the demons was to rescue their country. Hyakkimaru enters in his scene, accompanied by his mother and sibling, but Daigo orders his death. Tahomaru is terrified, but Daigo asks if he is prepared to give up the country to rescue his brother. The Asakuras begin killing their hostages at Fort Banman in order to incite a conflict, while the Daigo army advances forward, enticing the fox demon. Lord Daigo and his army arrive, and Tahomaru, who has grudgingly accepted his father's choice, assaults Hyakkimaru. Hyakkimaru fractures Tahomaru's sword and injures his right eye before killing the demon drawn into the Banman. His mother arrives and begs forgiveness for her role in Daigo's scheme. She then stabs herself, causing her goddess of mercy statue to crumble the Banman as a result of her sacrifice. Sukuroku is reunited with his mother once the Banman survivors of his tribe arrive. The monk picks up Nua's little headless wooden figure of the goddess of compassion, which gave its own head for Hyakkimaru's birth in order for the boy not to lose his head in his father's agreement with the demons, and his soothing green aura fades. Later, Hyakkimaru and Dororo reach a location where they find the monk and other youngsters bathing and who notice a map on Dororo's back. Nui is seen to have survived, although Tahomaru's right eye has been blinded. Dororo's father, the bandit Hibuguru, wrote half of a map of his hidden treasures' location onto the back of his wife and the remainder on Dororo's back so they could collect it together. In a flashback, Dororo subsequently remembered the map on her mother's back before she died. In the present, the monk and Hyakkimaru discover that the map emerges when Dororo's back warms up, which the monk claims provides her some life options. Even when a gigantic baby-like creature snatches Doro, Hyakkimaru continues his quest for demons undisturbed. When they arrive to a burnt-out temple, the creatures vanish as they meet Sabame, the king of the area. Carrying a flower gift to the ghost that haunts the place, he asks them to stay at his home, where he claims the temple formerly housed a nunnery that mistreated children before being hit by lightning and destroyed, killing everyone within. The pilgrims are assaulted that night by a caterpillar-like monster, but when Hyakkimaru wounds it, a massive moth-like demon, Mayamba, comes and drags it away. The moth settles near Sabame and turns into a woman with white hair. He calms her and offers to protect her and her children when she informs him that the meal he supplied for her children was too strong. Dororo travels to Sabame's affluent settlement, where everyone appears to be content. The villagers force her into the cellar when she discovers a rice stockpile deep in the forest. It's infested with the caterpillar monsters who threaten Dororo, but the baby monster returns to save her. The monster rips open, unleashing the spirits of the children who had been given by Sabame and the villagers after the temple had been burned down. Outside the village, Sabame tells Hikamaru how he embraced the Mayamba, who fed on samurai and wildlife to defend the community, and eventually married her. The Meimayambu moths emerge from their crystallines and assault Hyakkimaru, who fights back ferociously. But the final one breaks his prosthetic limb and then sacrifices itself to set fire to the village. Meanwhile, Dororo destroys the caterpillars in the village rice supplies by burning down the storeroom, leading the inhabitants to fight over the remaining food. Hyakkimaru tracks down and kills the original Meimayambu, returning his spinal column to him. He and Dororo return to Sabame's burned-out village, where many inhabitants, including Sabame, are dead. Dororo questions whether they did the right thing, but Hyakkimaru claims his soul care is destroying demons. Dororo and Hyakkimaru part, but a bandit named Itachi, who betrayed Dororo's father, tracks her down. Itachi has half of the map from Dororo's mother's back and insists on seeing the other half. She denies having knowledge of a map, but Itachi and his men take her, assuming she has memorized it. They travel for days following Itachi's discovery of her mother's portion of the map when he dug up her body. They arrive at Cape Hakatsu, where the treasure is hidden, but they can't get there without a boat. After failing to locate boats in a neighboring town that they fear was destroyed by robbers, they meet Shiranui, a one-armed youth who offers to transport them over. They board 2 boats pulled by huge sharks. Midway across, Shiranui reveals he fed his arm to the sharks, but they developed a taste for human flesh, so he then killed the villagers to feed them. Sharks capsize one of the boats and eat the guys on board in response to a signal. He leaves the Subiromaru to monitor the second boat till they return later to dine, not wanting them to overeat. Disheartened, Itachi describes how his lord used him and his troops. Dororo scolds them for giving up and dives into the ocean. They bring her up on a signal, and as the shark surfaces, they stab and kill it. They then paddle ashore at Cape Hakatsu, and when Shiranui arrives to investigate, he is brutally assaulted by the outlaws. Itachi takes off Dororo's garments in search of the map and discovers she is a girl when the heat of the fire shows the map on her back. With the completed map, they tie up Dororo and leave, while Shiranui vows revenge. Elsewhere, as Hyakkimaru struggles to walk, he passes a monk who tells him of a man nearby who can give him a new leg. Jukai is adding limbs to the wounded on a battlefield when a ghoul attacks, but Hyakkimaru appears and kills him. Back in his cage, Jukai is horrified when Hyakkimaru explains what his father did to him. Suddenly, a landslide blocks the entrance to the cave. While Hyakkimaru digs his way out, he reveals he's not alone as he remembers Dororo. Emerging from the cave, they find the fruit of a nearby demon tree producing more ghouls. He slays them all until he eventually pierces the tree's heart and destroys it. At the Dago compound, Nui recovers, but Tahomaru leaves to kill a reported ghoul. Without visiting her, he leaves, and he and his aides find and wound a rat-like ghoul. Tahomaru then burns the building to kill both the ghoul and its offspring, who are still alive inside. Pledging his sword to defend Dago land, when they return, Dago sends Tahomaru and a small army to kill Hyakkimaru. Hyakkimaru rows a small boat towards Cape Hakatsu. Shiranui calls on the giant shark, and it evolves into a demon capable of moving onto land. It attacks Dororo, but she's saved by Hyakkimaru, who slays the demon. Hyakkimaru's left leg is restored. Meanwhile, Itachi finds a cave and 2 of his men rush in but are killed by booby-trapped explosives. Tahomaru and a fleet land on the shore in pursuit of Hyakkimaru, and Tahomaru gives orders to leave no one alive. Several of Itachi's surviving soldiers are killed by Dago arrows, and Dororo and Hyakkimaru find a wounded Itachi. When Tahomaru, Matsu, and Hyogo attack Hyakkimaru, Itachi snatches Dororo and flees, and detonates the booby-trap devices he removed in an attempt to murder everyone, almost killing himself and causing a landslide far over Shiranui. Many of Tahomaru's men are killed, and Hyogo is seriously injured, so they decide to retreat, presuming Hyakkimaru is dead. Meanwhile, Dororo and the gravely injured Itachi locate the treasure after falling into a cave caused by the explosion. Itachi dies after seeing it. When Hyakkimaru discovers Dororo, she resolves to keep the treasure concealed until she decides what to do with it. Hyakkimaru and Dororo go to the swordsmith to get the swords and Hyakkimaru's prosthetics repaired. He puts the restored blade back together and resumes his quest with Dororo. Tahomaru and his aides notice disaster before Dago's villages, and because it began at the boundaries and is expanding within, they believe the demons are displeased. As Hyakkimaru is still alive, back in his compound, Dago learns that his agreement with the demons has been cancelled by the demolition of the Goddess of Mercy statue, and the days of prosperity are ended. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru and Dororo meet Daispot Saburoda, who is on the quest for a local demon that ate his mother. They're waiting when a massive monster appears. Hyakkimaru rushes to battle it, but is stopped by Saburoda, who now enjoys watching the monster consume terrified travelers. During the struggle, Hyakkimaru and Dororo slide down a rocky hillside, trapping Dororo's arms. Despite shattering his left prosthetic limb, Hyakkimaru is unable to release her, and underground water begins to rise unexpectedly. The monk appears and frees Dororo, though his sword is broken again. Determined to regain his body, Hyakkimaru attacks and badly wounds the demon. It eats Saburoda in desperation, absorbing him into his body, and Hyakkimaru finally slays it, However, no part of his body is returned to him this time, even when he cuts the new ones to pieces, much to the horror of Dororo. The monk watches sadly as the brutality results in Hyakkimaru's aura gaining a red heart. Thinking he has a heavy fate to bear, Hyakkimaru realizes he must confront Daigo to have his body fully restored. Hyakkimaru approaches Daigo territory, and Dororo is saddened by his single-minded desire to recover his body parts. A villager recognizes them and alerts Daigo. Meanwhile, the situation in Daigo territory deteriorates. Diseased villages are burned down and their inhabitants are killed. Able-bodied men are drafted to fight the threatening Asakura clan. Horses, including a nursing mother named Midoro, have been requisitioned. To stop Hyakkimaru, Tahomaru decides to take Matsu and Hyogo with him. They find him and Dororo in a ravine littered with the bodies of soldiers and attack him together. Matsu's right arm and Hyogo's left arm are severed, and Tahomaru's right eye is cut once more. Dororo is horrified by Hyakkimaru's savagery. A troop of warriors dispatched by Daigo to safeguard their prince unexpectedly intervene. Midora is sent with explosives at Hyakkimaru, killing the horse and blowing him down the ravine. Dororo is seized by the villagers, and when Tahomaru refuses to give up, is stunned with a dart. Later, ghosts take possession of Midoro's bodily parts, transforming it into a fiery horse. Tahomaru's gang returns home with Dororo, as Daigo prepared to oppose an Asakura clan attack. Hyakkimaru is upset that Dororo has been taken and is ready to confront the bandit. His fury drew the demon horse to him. Tahomaru pays a visit to Hyogo's sister Matsu, who has lost her right arm and is suffering from an illness. She was hiding, and she refused to meet him because she does not want to be infected. Meanwhile, Nui frees Dororo as a gesture of thanks for providing company for her son Hyakkimaru, and departs with her. Their boat is shattered by the powerful river, and they are rescued by Daigo refugees, including the monk. Nui remains to assist in the care of the ill and injured. Matsu flees the compound, causing Tahomaru and Hyogo to pursue her. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru has joined forces with the demonic horse Midoro and is tearing through Daigo soldiers in search of Dororo. Matsu stumbles to the demon temple and begs the 12th and last demon to safeguard the country and its inhabitants. When Tahomaru and Hyogo come, her offer is denied. Nevertheless, when Tahomaru, Matsu, and Hyogo later intercept Hyakkimaru, the demon has cured their wounds. Matsu and Hyogo both have one of Hyakkimaru's real arms, while Tahomaru has 2 eyes. Daigo people along the border prepare for battle, but Midoro's fawn flees. To recover his eyes and arms, Hyakkimaru assaults Tahomaru, Matsu, and Hyogo. Meanwhile, Nui and Dororo arrive to the combat but are prevented from entering by the monk. Midoro assaults Matsu and Hyogo, but is distracted by the appearance of a fawn and is injured as a result. Midoro, infuriated, rips Hyogo's head off and crushes Matsu. But their bodies are controlled by the demon, who uses their limbs to gravely injure Midoro. Hyakkimaru's arms return to him after their deaths, and he takes the 2 sword blades and his prosthetics with his bare hands to continue fighting. When he sees Nui and Dororo approaching, he is overcome with emotion. Hyakkimaru departs, pursued by Tahomaru. At the border, Daigo pushes his troops forward, determined to feed the Asakura and give his actions significance. The conflict resumes as Hyakkimaru leads Tahomaru to the Daigo castle. During the battle, they knock over a candle stand, setting fire to the building. Dororo and Nui are pulled to the smoke by their worry for the 2 brothers. Inside the burning Daigo castle, Tahomaru and Hyakkimaru resume their violent combat, each believing it is their ancestral home. Meanwhile, Nui leaves the monk and Dororo while she enters the castle through a hidden tunnel and meets Dukai above them. Tahomaru is ultimately defeated, yet he is not killed. The demon with Hyakkimaru's eyes tries to take control of Tahomaru, but he removes the eyes, causing them to return to Hyakkimaru. After slaying the demon, he is restored to health for the first time, and Dukai presents him with a newly carved goddess of compassion statue. As the castle burns, Dororo and Hyakkimaru are reunited. Nui attends to Tahomaru as he dies in her arms while the palace crumbles around her. Meanwhile, the final demon statue collapses in Hell's Hall, and Daigo leads his army towards Asakura, losing many of his troops. Later, Dororo considers retrieving the riches in order to assist the Daigo refugees, while Hyakkimaru discovers his father, injured but still stubborn, in the Hall of Hell. However, after Hyakkimaru leaves without murdering him and leaves the Goddess of Mercy statue behind, Daigo understands that if he hadn't made the bargain with the demons, Hyakkimaru may have been able to save his land. Hyakkimaru leaves alone, leaving Dororo behind, knowing that they would meet again in the future. Dororo, now a young lady, hurries to welcome Hyakkimaru, who grins as he turns to see her in the last scene. The end.